What's up, everybody? Andrew Mahone here with Darium's Competitive Pokemon. Going to be doing another old school deck profile from the base Neo format here today for you all. Today, we're going to be talking about Steelix Brock's Ninetales from that base Neo format. Steelix for that Neo Genesis set, just a super thick, beefy card, 110 hit points. Got Tackle for 20, Tail Crush, flip a coin. If heads, attack does 30 damage plus 20 more damage. Tails, attack does 30 damage. Super cool card, very good stats, but notice, Steelix is probably going to be very weak to energy removal, right? Which runs rampant in this format. Energy removal is kind of the name of the game. And in Steelix, poor Steelix, is never going to get enough energy on this thing to be able to attack, even though it is a pretty formidable Pokemon. But that's where Brock's Ninetales comes in. So you'll notice that there are no Onix in this list. A Steelix deck with no Onix seems pretty crazy, right? But this deck is pretty neat in that Brock's Ninetales allows you to shapeshift into whatever you want, and that's how we get Steelix into play. So I'm going to talk about this very unique, little gimmicky deck for the base Neo format, but this deck is insanely strong, very hard to take down once you're able to get it stabilized. Now I say once you're able to get it stabilized because sometimes pulling off the Steelix trick can be a little difficult, but once you get it pulled off, this thing can run through just about any deck once you get up and moving. So let's take a look at this Brock's Ninetales Steelix deck, see what makes it work. First of all, got 4 of those Steelix with the huge hit points, 110. Also, sweet metal type. It's super big. I mean, a retreat of 4, but you're able to tank with this thing very, very well, especially because of that special metal energy that I'll show you later. Also play 2 Brock's Ninetales, 3 Brock's Vulpix. Additionally, we play 4 copies of Cleffa, it's our draw card, a Tyrogue, an Igglybuff, and 2 Scythers. So that's it for the Pokemon. Let's talk about them. Like I said, Steelix is the star of this deck. He's your main attacker, but he's got that energy cost that just it's never going to stick. You're never going to be able to get that to stay. This is where Brock's Ninetales comes into play. So we start out with Brock's Vulpix. Brock's Vulpix, pretty cool Pokemon, it has the option to put the defending Pokemon to sleep, but not really anything to write home about. Evolve into Brock's Ninetales, right? And all of a sudden we notice that it has this pretty nifty ability, Shapeshift. Let's take a look at it. It says, once during your turn before you attack, you may attach an evolution card from your hand to Brock's Ninetales. This doesn't count as evolving Brock's Ninetales. Treat Brock's Ninetales as if it were that Pokemon instead. It can't evolve, devolve, or use the Pokemon power of Brock's Ninetales. This power can't be used if Brock's Ninetales is asleep, confused, or paralyzed. If Brock Ninetales becomes asleep, confused, or paralyzed, discard all evolution cards attached to it. So, what you do with this deck is you start with Vulpix, right? You evolve into Brock's Ninetales, and then as soon as you evolve into Brock's Ninetales, you could shapeshift and put the Steelix on top, and all of a sudden, Steelix is Brock's Ninetales becomes Steelix. And all intents and purposes, Brock's Ninetales is now Steelix. It could use Metal Energy, it could use Tail Crush, Tackle. It can't use Will-O-the-Wisp, but you don't have energy to use that anyway. You just are Steelix now. Now you might ask, Andrew, why in the world would I evolve through Brock's Vulpix and then Brock's Ninetales in order to eventually turn into Steelix? Wouldn't it just be easier to start with an Onix and then to evolve into a Steelix and keep it as a stage 1 as opposed to making it this kind of annoying, awkward stage 2 Pokemon? And my answer would be a resounding no. We play this card, Brock's Protection, right? Which solves Steelix's whole issue in this deck. So Brock's Protection reads, attach Brock's Protection to one of your Pokemon with Brock's in its name. Okay, great. How about a Vulpix? And it says, Pokemon Brock's in its name. Energy cards attached to that Pokemon can't be removed. Your opponent's attacks or trainer cards by your opponent's attacks or trainer cards, right? So you attach this to a Pokemon. It's not a tool card. You notice it does not say Pokemon tool, right? And it makes it so that energies cannot be removed from this Pokemon. So great. You attach Brock's Protection here. You evolve into Brock's Ninetales, right? Energies can't be removed from this thing. Then you shapeshift into Steelix, and guess what? He still gets to keep Brock's Protection, meaning the energies cannot be removed from your Steelix. So the whole issue of energy removal, being able to make it so the Steelix can't attack, it's gone. But you have to be able to pull off this fancy trick. You have to be able to go into Brock's Vulpix, Brock's Ninetales, then into Steelix, have the Brock's protection ready, and then your Steelix is ready to rock and roll, right? It doesn't even have its Pokemon tool taken up because Brock's protection is just a trainer card that sticks on to your Brock's Ninetales, and it can't be removed. There is no Pokemon tool removal in this format anyway, so Steelix just gets to keep this nice little protection here and can sweep the opponent's side of the field with it. And that's kind of the main strategy of this deck. So let's put these back. Of course, we do have, I'll talk about some of the other Pokemon in the deck real quick. Of course, we do have our Clefas, our 4 Clefas, right? And the Cleffa is just there for that Eek attack. You want to set up. It takes a little while to get the Brock's Vulpix, the Ninetales, and then the Steelix. This is a slow burning deck. I mean, it's going to take you a while to pull off the Steelix trick, but the idea is that you might only need to get 1 or 2 Steelix into play, but then you're just able to tank hits with that Steelix and wipe out your opponent's side of the field with maybe 1 or 2 Steelix. Steelix could do up to 50 damage with that Tail Crush attack if you flip a heads. Tackle, pretty good as well, just pumping out 20 for 2. I mean, it does some pretty decent numbers. I mean, if you're just tail crushing over and over again, you're doing between 30 and 50 damage. So you're going to average out to 40 damage a turn, which is just pretty formidable for 3 energy. That's not that bad. And then when you take into account that you have 110 hit points and you're going to be healing this thing constantly, it's very hard for your opponent to chew through it. You got the 4 Cleffa to set up behind while you set up your Steelix. You also have a copy of Igglybuff. Igglybuff reads, once during your turn, before you attack, you may choose one of your opponent's bench Pokemon that has a Pokemon power. That power stops working until the end of this turn. So, Igglybuff is literally only there to counter that Scyther, or not that Scyther, to counter that Aerodactyl. There's a fossil Aerodactyl that is a restored Pokemon, so you have to bring it into play with that fossil. But once it comes into play, it makes it so that Pokemon cannot evolve. So Igglybuff allows you to shut off that Aerodactyl's ability, making so that you can evolve, which is the whole backbone of this deck. If you can't evolve, you're going to lose. So this is a 1-card tech just to deal with that Aerodactyl. We also play Tyrogue. Sometimes you don't have a Steelix built up, right? So we have Tyrogue and Scyther to kind of deal with that and help us get out of those tough situations when we don't have a Steelix. Because there's a good part of the game where you're going to be eking, and then maybe you need to put on some pressure with somebody else while you're still trying to get your Steelix thing going, right? And Tyrogue and Scyther kind of help you do that. Tyrogue is Smash Punch. It allows you to flip a coin if tails. Attack does nothing, but it has free retreat. No weakness, 30 hit points, but it's got that baby rule, so maybe it could buy you a couple turns while you just try to chip away at your opponent, weaken them up so that they can be swept by your Steelix. Scyther, also really good for taking out baby Pokemon. Just you have 3 energy attack costs you could pay for with a double colorless energy and 1 other energy attachment, and just allows you to maybe take out some Cleffas or things like that, clear the way for Steelix to take down the bigger threats. You really don't want to waste Steelix trying to knock out Cleffas and things like that. You really want Steelix to be your heavy hitter to attack into your opponent's attackers. So these Pokemon here, Tyrogue, Scyther, can help take out the opponent's baby Pokemon before you start to sweep it up with Steelix. So Steelix is our main boy. Brock's Ninetales helps us get there with that Brock's protection. This is the backbone of the deck. Now let's take a look at the trainer cards we play to help this deck function. I mentioned before that this deck is all about tanking with Steelix. So we're going to keep that in mind when we look at the trainers. We play the pretty average 2-2 Professor Zoke, Professor Elm. Just helps us draw throughout our deck, but also we're not playing too many of them, gives us space to account for other things, while also allowing us to kind of just rely on that Cleffa for setup. Play 4 copies of Lass. When you're sweeping, about to sweep with the Steelix, right? Sweeping with Steelix, you want to deny your opponent all the resources you can. You want them to not be using Gust of Wind or Double Gust or anything to bring up your Vulpix, right? You want to be able to just set up your Steelix in peace. So you're going to last your opponent constantly. You want to make sure that they're not energy removaling you before you get a Brock's protection on. You just want to last them and eek. Last and eek. And this is kind of how you get set up and how you buy yourself enough time to eventually get that Steelix into play, which is why we play 4 copies of Lass. We also play 3 computer search. You need to play a high count of computer search in this deck so that you can search out the pieces of that Brock's Ninetales puzzle. You notice we only play a 3-2 line, so you need a little bit of help getting that Brock's Ninetales into play. Computer search helps us do just that. We'll also play 3 copies of Item Finder. Discard 2 cards from your hand in order to get an item from your or a trainer from your discard pile. back into your hand. This is great just for getting your last back. You can also get your Brock's Protection back, right? Play 3 of those. And I talked about that, just giving you that protection from energy removal. It's the whole kind of logic behind this deck. It allows you to also get back your gold berries. Gold berry is just essential to keeping Steelix alive. Item Finder is just great for getting all these resources back from your discard pile, but gold berry kind of stands out as one of the most important cards in this deck. Steelix, like I said, has 110 hit points, which is pretty formidable. When you combine that with the fact that we play special metal, and I've shown these off before, the special metal energy prevents 10 damage done to all your metal Pokemon when it's attached. So it beefs you up even more. You kind of have this additional protection from special metal energy. And then when you have Goldberry in the mix, right, you can have Brock's Protection attached, because Brock's Protection is not technically a tool card. It's just a trainer that attached to Brock's Ninetails. So then you could use Goldberry as your tool. So look at all these things you end up putting on your Steelix, right? Yeah, I mean, he gets souped up and ready for battle. But Goldberry heals 40 damage that happens on this Pokemon. So if he has 40 or more damage on it, between turns, Goldberry would heal that, and then Goldberry would go to the discard. So this is how you're able to tank with the Steelix. Like I said, you might only need to get one Steelix into play throughout the course of the game. Goldberry is how we do that. I mean, nobody is going to be knocking out the Steelix in one hit. I mean, really, okay, if you had a Charizard built up, you could knock out a Steelix in one hit. But nobody in this format is going to be knocking out Steelix in one go. So, especially with these special metals, right? So Goldberry really helps just extend the longevity of your Steelix with a huge amount of hit points. The special metals, you know, to help increase his survivability as well. Item Finder just allows us to get the Goldberries back or get whatever we want back, but Goldberry definitely an important thing that we're going to be retrieving from that discard pile. Let's talk about Brock's training method. Also a great little trainer card here that jives with those Brock's Pokemon. It says search your deck for a basic Pokemon or evolution card with Brock in its name. Show that card to your opponent, put it into your hand. So computer search is great for searching out those Brock's Ninetales, Brock's Vulpix, but Brock's training method really good for just being able to grab one of those 2 Vulpix that you have and then instantly being able to place the Steelix onto the Ninetales. You know, Brock's training method, like I said, grabbing one of those 2 Brock's Ninetales that you have and then being able to put the Steelix onto it immediately. Also play 1 copy of Super Potion. You can get that back with Item Finder as well. Discard 1 energy card attached to one of your own Pokemon in order to remove up to 4 damage counters from that Pokemon, just helping assist the survivability of Steelix as well. When you take into account that we play Recycle Energy, an energy card that when put from play into the discard pile comes back into your hand, Super Potion jives really well with that Recycle Energy too. We also play 2 copies of Energy Charge. You guys may notice there is no such thing as basic metal energy. So in order to pay for Steelix's Tail Crush attack, we need to use a special metal. So this deck plays a lot of special energy, pretty much all special energy cards. There are no regular energy in here. So in order to get those energy back into the deck, we need to play Energy Charge, which is kind of just like a Wersh special charge from the modern format, right? It says flip a coin. If heads, shuffle up to 2 energy cards from your deck, from your discard pile into your deck. So that allows you to get back those metal energies, your recycle energies, and your double colorless energies just to keep you attacking throughout the course of the game. Play 1 copy of Warp Point. You notice Steelix has got a fat 4 retreat cost, so we need to get him out of the active sometimes. Warp Point is just a good card for allowing us to do that. It's like an old school escape rope. If your opponent has any bench Pokemon, they choose one of them and switch it, and then you choose one of your bench Pokemon and switch it with your active too. Nice little card just for the retreat and to get Cleffa back in the active so it can continue to eke. We also play 2 copies of Gust of Wind, so you can target down your opponent's Pokemon with Steelix. You don't want Steelix up there swinging into the wrong things. Once your Steelix is finally charged up and ready to go, you're going to want to gust out whatever target you find the most threatening and start to chip away at it with Steelix's Tail Crush attack. Play 2 copies of Super Energy Removal. Again, this card is pretty much a staple in most decks in this format. Just the ability to deny your opponent, you know, some of their board position. Last, great for disrupting their hand. Gotta play at least a couple Super Energy Removal. The card's just too good not to play, and just to help you disrupt some of your opponent's attackers that they try to set up. Also play 1 copy of Nightly Garbage Run. Sometimes we need to throw our copies of Brock's Ninetales back into the deck. Like we said, we only play a 3-2 line. So Nightly Garbage Run is like a super rod an old super rod, choose up to 3 basic Pokemon, evolution cards, or energy cards from your discard pile, show them to your opponent, shuffle them into your deck. Nightly Garbage Run allows you to just conserve your resources. You happen to have to discard anything bad, you could throw them back into the deck with Nightly Garbage Run. And then finally, our stadium of choice is Healing Field. We play 2 of them. It says once during each player's turn, he or she may flip a coin. If heads, that player removes 2 damage counters from his or her active Pokemon. And you might say, Andrew, that doesn't really make a lot of sense because the opponent could take advantage of Healing Field as well and heal their Pokemon. But obviously, the whole kind of logic of this deck is to set up 1 Steelix and just heal yourself completely with, and tank with the 1 Steelix. This is like your Hail Mary Steelix deck. You're gold berrying, you got Super Potion, and you got Healing Field along with Special Metal. It is very, very hard for your opponent to do any amount of damage to the Steelix once it gets set up and rolling. And Healing Field just allows you to flip and maybe heal 2 damage counters here and there. You're pumping out 30 to 50 damage with Steelix, so pretty much no matter what, you're going to be usually doing more damage to your opponent than they are doing to you. Healing Field just kind of helps sweeten the deal a little bit more. So we do play 2 of those. The card's very effective in this deck and just jives with the whole logic of the list. Really think that this deck is fun to play, and just like everything in here is constructed to help you pull off that Steelix tank, right? And that's really what we're trying to do. So all those trainers are optimized to be able to allow you to sweep with that Steelix. The energy. We play 4 of those Special Metal, allowing you to have 10 less damage dealt to you from the opponent's attacks, which is super awesome. Imagine you have 3 Special Metal attached to this thing, right? Holy smokes, 3 Special Metals. They can't be removed because you've got Brock's Protection, right? You've got a Gold Berry on here too because, why not? And if your opponent does any damage to you, right? And, imagine you got like a Healing Field in play too. Wherever those are over here. I brushed them away. But imagine you got a Healing Field in play and your opponent really isn't going to be doing anything to you. They take 30 less damage. Whatever attack they're trying to pull, they do 30 less damage to you. They can't remove your Special Metals because of Brock's Protection. And whenever they do amass 40 damage at least, you're going to heal it off with a Golden Berry. So you can see how this deck would really, really shine with those Special Metals. Everything is very much optimized to allow you to tank with Steelix, and really, it's very depressing if Steelix ever goes down because they really shouldn't ever really be knocking out once you get them up and rolling. You really only usually get 1, maybe 2 Steelix up per game, but that's all you need. You can see they're very hard to take down once they get set up. Play 4 copies of Recycle Energy. Like I said, this energy just jives with that Super Energy removal. Also goes well with Super Potion, allowing you to heal off your Steelix. The energy, instead of going to the discard pile, Recycle Energy, when it gets discarded for play, comes back to your hand, so you can do the Super Potion, put it right back down onto your Steelix, and continue attacking. And then we do play 2 copies of Double Colorless. We only need 2 copies of Double Colorless because this deck is very slow. Like I said, you're going to spend pretty much all day using Eek and trying to set up, and then by the time you get Steelix up and moving, you'll probably got some combination of maybe two of these Special Metals, maybe with Recycle Energy, right? You might need to use a Double Colorless here and there, but usually, you're able to get the metals on. That's your ideal energy for Steelix, right? So you only really need 2 of these Double Colorless. They help you power up Scyther as well, but the Special Metals are really what you want on the Steelix so that he can tank hits as good as possible. And that about wraps it up for the Steelix Brock's Ninetales deck. Thank you all for checking it out. I think this is a really fun deck and just excited that I was able to show it off to you guys. Let me know what you think of the deck in the comments below. Trying to get a stream table built so that we can show off these decks to you guys in some showdown matches here coming up. But let me know what you think in the comments. Like, comment, subscribe, and thank you all for checking out my video, joining me here today. Peace.